I am sitting alone in my car in the parking lot of the Grand Oak Resort. The sun went down hours ago, but I cannot bring myself to turn the key in the ignition. In my hands is a piece of paper, an invoice with numbers that blur every time I try to read them. Today was supposed to be the happiest day, watching Vada, the little girl I raised for 17 years, marry the love of her life. Instead, I am sitting here wondering where all those years went and why they meant nothing to her. Before I tell you what happened, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below, and if stories about family love and hard lessons resonate with you, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. Now let me take you back to where it all began, so you can understand how I ended up here alone in this parking lot, holding a bill instead of my daughter. I met Diana at a hardware store on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in March. I was 23 years old, working as a junior contractor for a small construction company, picking up supplies for a renovation project. She was standing in the paint aisle, holding a squirming 3-year-old girl in one arm and 2 paint swatches in the other, looking completely overwhelmed. The little girl had wild brown curls and the biggest eyes I had ever seen. That was Vada. Something about the way Diana was struggling made me walk over and offer to help. I held the paint swatches while she adjusted Vada on her hip. We talked for 20 minutes about shades of blue for a nursery that Diana was turning into a big girl room. By the end of that conversation, I had her phone number and a feeling in my chest that I had never experienced before. Diana told me her story on our 3rd date. Raymond Veda's biological father had left when Diana was 7 months pregnant. He did not leave a note, did not answer calls, just packed a bag and drove off with a woman he had been seeing behind Diana's back. He moved to another state, and for 3 years, Diana heard nothing. No child support, no birthday cards, no phone calls. Raymond simply vanished, leaving Diana to raise their daughter completely alone. I fell in love with both of them. Diana with her quiet strength and warm laugh, Veda with her endless questions and the way she would grab my hand whenever we crossed the street. When I proposed to Diana a year later, Veda was the one who shouted yes before Diana could even answer. We got married when Vada was 4 years old, and I officially became the man of the house. I never adopted Veda legally because Raymond's parental rights had never been terminated, and tracking him down seemed impossible. But in every way that mattered, I was her father. The first years were filled with all the ordinary magic of raising a child. I remember staying up all night when Vada was 5 and caught a terrible fever. Diana had to work the early shift at the hospital where she was a nurse, so I sat beside Vada's bed with cold compresses and children's fever medicine, watching cartoons at 3 in the morning until her temperature finally broke. I taught her to ride a bike in Riverside Park when she was 6. She fell at least a dozen times, scraping her knees and elbows, but she refused to quit. That stubbornness, I thought it was a good thing. When she finally made it all the way around the loop without falling, she jumped off the bike and hugged me so hard I almost fell over. "Dad, we did it," she said. "We did it." Every morning before school, I made her favorite breakfast pancakes, shaped like bears with chocolate chip eyes and a banana slice nose. I drove her to school, picked her up, helped with homework, attended every parent-teacher conference and school play. When she was 8, she played a singing tree in the spring musical. She only had 1 line, but I recorded the whole thing and watched it so many times, the tape nearly wore out. Diana and I had 2 more children together. Ethan came along when Veda was 7, and Lily arrived 2 years after that. Our house got louder, messier, and more wonderful. I never treated Veda differently from Ethan and Lily. In my heart, I had 3 children, and I loved them all the same. When Veda was 12, everything almost fell apart. Diana was driving home from a late shift when a drunk driver ran a red light and hit her car. She survived, but barely. 3 surgeries, 3 months in the hospital, and a year of physical therapy. Our medical bills piled up faster than I could count them. During those 3 months, I became everything to our family. I woke up at 5 every morning to make breakfast, packed lunches, got all 3 kids to school, worked my construction job, picked them up, made dinner, helped with homework, visited Diana at the hospital, came home and did it all over again. I was exhausted in ways I did not know were possible, but I never complained. This was my family, and I would do whatever it took to hold us together. Vada was struggling during this time. She was 12, hitting puberty, and scared that her mother might die. She acted out slammed doors, yelled at her siblings, and once told me she hated me because I would not let her go to a sleepover. I understood. She was hurting. So I stayed patient, stayed present, and stayed steady even when she pushed me away. That year, I was offered a promotion at work. Project manager, better pay, better title. The catch was that it required traveling to job sites across the state sometimes for weeks at a time. I turned it down without a second thought. My family needed me at home, and no amount of money was worth missing these years with my children. There is one thing I never told anyone. When the hospital bills became too much, I sold my 1969 Mustang. My father had given me that car when I turned 18. It was the only thing I had left from him after he passed. But Diana needed another surgery, and the insurance only covered part of it. So I drove that Mustang to a collector one Saturday morning and sold it. I told Diana I found a buyer through a work connection who gave me a good deal on some extra shifts. She never knew the truth. I did all of this because I loved my family. I did it because being a father was not about biology or blood. It was about showing up day after day, year after year, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Everything changed when Vada was 16. She came home from school one day with a strange look on her face, something between excitement and confusion. She said that her real father had found her on social media and sent her a message. I remember feeling like someone had poured ice water down my spine. Raymond. After 13 years of silence, he had suddenly decided to reach out. I wanted to tell Veda to block him, to ignore him, to remember all the years he had abandoned her. But I did not. Diana and I talked about it that night, and we agreed that Vada had the right to know her biological father, even if the thought made us both uneasy. Raymond's first messages were apologetic and charming. He told Veda that leaving was the biggest mistake of his life, that he thought about her every single day, that he never stopped loving her. He said he had been too young, too scared, too broke to be a good father back then, but he had changed. He was different now, and apparently he was rich now too. According to Raymond, he had built a successful real estate development company in California. He sent Vada pictures of his beachfront house, his luxury cars, his boat. He started sending gifts, the latest iPhone designer handbags, envelopes of cash for her to spend however she wanted. I watched this happening and felt helpless. How could I compete with that? I was a construction worker who drove a 10-year-old pickup truck and clipped coupons to save money on groceries. Raymond was offering Veda a fantasy, and she was drinking it in. The changes in Veda were gradual, at first, then impossible to ignore. She started spending every school break in California, flying out to stay at Raymond's mansion. She came back with stories about yacht parties and celebrity sightings and dinners at restaurants where a single meal cost more than my weekly paycheck. Then came the day she stopped calling me Dad. It happened at dinner one evening when she was 17. She was telling us about her latest trip to visit Raymond, and she referred to him as my dad. I did not say anything at first, thought maybe it was a slip of the tongue, but then she looked at me and said, "Marcus, can you pass the salt?" Not Dad. Marcus, I passed the salt. I did not say a word, but something inside me cracked. After that, the comparison started. She would look around our modest house and make comments about how much bigger Raymond's place was. She seemed embarrassed when I picked her up from school, asking me to park around the corner so her friends would not see our old truck. When I bought her a birthday gift, a nice watch that I had saved up for months to afford, she thanked me politely and then showed me the diamond bracelet Raymond had sent. I kept telling myself it was a phase. Teenagers go through phases. She would come back to us eventually, see through Raymond's shallow displays of wealth, and remember who had actually raised her. The graduation party was the hardest moment. Vada was finishing high school, and Diana and I had planned a celebration at our house with family and friends. But then Raymond announced he was coming, and suddenly everything changed. He arrived in a silver Mercedes convertible and presented Vada with a brand new BMW wrapped in a giant red bow. She screamed with joy, hugged him for what felt like 10 minutes, and posed for pictures beside her new car that she immediately posted online. Meanwhile, sitting in our garage was the Honda Civic I had spent 2 years saving for. I had planned to give it to her that night, had even practiced a little speech about responsibility and freedom and growing up. But after seeing her reaction to Raymond's gift, I could not bring myself to do it. The Honda stayed in the garage untouched until I finally sold it 6 months later. At the family photo session, Veda positioned herself next to Raymond, their arms around each other, matching smiles. I stood at the edge of the frame, barely in the shot. When Diana saw the photos later, she cried. I held her and told her it would be okay, but I was not sure I believed it anymore. Veda was 20 years old when she announced her engagement. She did it through a text message in our family group chat. 3 sentences. Getting married to Derek in June. Raymond is handling everything. More details soon. Derek was the son of one of Raymond's business partners. They had met at one of those California parties Veda loved so much. I had never met him, had never even seen a picture of him until Diana showed me his social media profile. He looked like every other wealthy young man I had seen on television. Expensive haircut, expensive watch, expensive smile. I texted Vada, "Congratulations," and asked if we could meet Derek before the wedding. She replied 2 days later, saying they were really busy with planning, but maybe Derek could video chat sometime. That call never happened. As the wedding approached, I tried to find my place in the preparations. I offered to help with logistics, to contribute financially, to do anything at all. Vada responded to each offer the same way. "Thanks, but Raymond has got it covered. He is paying for everything. It is going to be at the Grand Oak Resort. 500 guests, the whole thing." Diana was invited to go dress shopping. I stayed home, told myself that was normal, that dress shopping was a mother-daughter thing. But then Diana came back with a strange expression. She told me that Raymond had been there, along with his new wife, a woman named Kristen, who was only a few years older than Veda. They had spent the whole day together, like one happy family, and Diana had felt like a guest at her own daughter's milestone. That night, I was scrolling through my phone when I saw the post. Veda had uploaded photos from the dress shopping trip. There she was, in a stunning white gown, surrounded by Raymond, Kristen, and Diana. The caption read, "Dress shopping with my real family. Found the one, my real family." I put my phone down and went for a long drive. When I came back, Diana was asleep, and I never mentioned what I had seen. 2 weeks before the wedding, Veda called me. When I saw her name on my phone, my heart actually lifted. Maybe she wanted to talk about the ceremony. Maybe she wanted me to walk her down the aisle, or give a speech, or share a dance. 17 years of hope does not die easily. Her voice was casual, almost businesslike. She said Raymond's investments had hit a temporary snag, something about a deal falling through at the last minute. The resort needed a deposit to hold the date, and she was wondering if I could help out. Just a loan, she said. $50,000. Raymond would pay me back within a month. I should have said no. I should have asked why Raymond, with his mansion and his Mercedes and his real estate empire, needed me to cover his deposit. But I did not ask those questions. I heard my daughter's voice asking for help, and 17 years of loving her overrode every rational thought in my head. I told her I would transfer the money that week. She said thanks, Marcus, and hung up. No small talk, no how are you, no mention of the wedding or whether I would have any role in it. I emptied my savings account the next day. The morning of the wedding, I put on the nicest suit I owned. It was the same one I had worn to Diana's in my anniversary dinner 2 years earlier, charcoal gray with a subtle stripe. I polished my shoes until they shone and picked up a bouquet of white roses to give to Vada before the ceremony. Diana and I arrived at the Grand Oak Resort an hour early. The place was magnificent, all white columns and manicured gardens and crystal chandeliers visible through the tall windows. I had driven past this resort 100 times over the years, never imagining I would one day walk through its doors for my daughter's wedding. An usher directed us to our seats. I expected to be in the front row, or at least the second, where the parents of the bride traditionally sit. Instead, he led us to the 5th row, back behind people I did not recognize behind Raymond and Kristen, who were already seated in the front with smug satisfaction on their faces. Diana grabbed my arm. She wanted to say something to the usher to demand an explanation, but I shook my head. Not today, I told her. Today is about Vada. We would not make a scene. So we sat in the 5th row, and I held the bouquet of roses in my lap, and I told myself that seating arrangements did not matter. What mattered was watching my daughter get married. The ceremony began with the traditional music, and everyone turned to watch the bride's entrance. The doors opened, and there was Vada, absolutely radiant in her white gown. For one perfect moment, I forgot about everything else and just saw the little girl who used to fall asleep in my arms during thunderstorms. Then I saw who was walking beside her. Raymond held Vada's arm as they proceeded down the aisle. He was beaming, his chest puffed out with pride, playing the role of devoted father as if he had earned it. As they walked, Vada smiled at guests on either side, nodded at friends, waved at relatives. And then they passed our row. Vada walked right by me without a glance. Not a look, not a nod, not even a flicker of recognition. I was invisible. 17 years of school plays and scraped knees and midnight fevers, and she walked past me like I was a stranger who had wandered in off the street. I felt Diana's hand tighten on mine. Her nails dug into my skin, but I barely noticed. There was a pain in my chest that made everything else seem distant and unreal. The ceremony proceeded. Vows were exchanged, rings were placed on fingers. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife. I watched it all from the 5th row, applauding when everyone else applauded standing, when everyone else stood going through the motions, while something inside me quietly died. The reception was held in the resort's grand ballroom. Diana and I found our assigned table, which was near the back corner, far from the head table, where Vada sat with Derek, Raymond, and Kristen. I ate food I could not taste and made small talk with distant relatives who kept asking how proud I must be. Then came the father-daughter dance. The DJ announced it, and Vada took Raymond's hand as the opening notes of My Girl began to play. I recognized that song immediately. It was the same song I had played in our living room when Vada was 10, teaching her the basic steps for her first school dance. She had been so nervous, kept stepping on my feet, and I told her it did not matter because she was already the best dancer I knew. Now she was gliding across the floor with Raymond, and he was holding her the way I used to hold her. And everyone was watching with tears in their eyes at what a beautiful moment it was. I sat at my distant table and watched the man who abandoned her take credit for everything I had done. After the dance came the speeches. Derek's best man told embarrassing stories about college. Derek's mother gave a tearful toast about gaining a daughter. Then Veda stood up, champagne glass in hand, and began to speak. She thanked Derek for being her soulmate. She thanked Derek's family for welcoming her. She thanked her mother for always being supportive. And then she turned to Raymond. "I want to give a special thanks to my dad," she said, looking directly at Raymond. "You came back into my life at exactly the right moment. You showed me what it means to dream big, to reach for more, to never settle for less than I deserve. Everything I am today I owe to you. Thank you for always being there for me." The crowd applauded. Raymond wiped away a tear, and I sat in silence, my name never mentioned, my 17 years of sacrifice erased in a 2-minute speech. Ethan and Lily were at the table with us. They had watched the whole thing, the walk down the aisle, the dance, the speech. Lily was crying quietly into her napkin. Ethan looked at me with something between rage and heartbreak in his eyes. "Dad," he whispered, "I am so sorry." I patted his shoulder and told him it was fine. It was not fine, but I did not know what else to say. The reception continued for hours. Cake was cut, bouquet was thrown, guests danced and laughed and celebrated. I stayed in my seat through most of it, accepting condolences from a few family members who understood what had happened, deflecting questions from others who did not. Around 10 o'clock, the crowd began to thin. Guests said their goodbyes, collected their party favors, headed to their cars. Diana was talking to her sister near the exit, making plans to meet for breakfast the next morning. I was still at our table alone, watching the catering staff begin to clear plates. That was when Vada approached me. It was the first time all day she had come anywhere near me. She was still in her wedding dress, though she had changed into more comfortable shoes. There was a smile on her face, the kind of smile I had seen 1,000 times when she was about to ask for something. She sat down in the chair next to mine and placed an envelope on the table between us. "I knew you would want to see this," she said. Raymond was supposed to handle it, but his deal fell through completely. The investors backed out at the last minute. So I put together all the expenses. I opened the envelope. Inside was an itemized invoice. Venue rental. Catering for 500 guests. Flowers, photography, music, wedding planner fees, line after line of expenses, each one more staggering than the last. At the bottom was a total. $120,000. I stared at the number. Then I looked at Veda. She was still smiling. "Since you already put down the deposit," she said, "I figured you would not mind covering the rest. You always said you would do anything for me, right?" "That is what dads do." I looked at the invoice again. I looked at Vada. I looked across the room at Raymond, who was watching us from a distance, with a satisfied expression on his face. Something shifted inside me. All the hurt, all the years of being overlooked and dismissed and taken for granted, all of it crystallized into a single clear thought. This was not love. This had never been love. I was a bank account to them, nothing more. I picked up the invoice, folded it neatly, and slid it back into the envelope. Then I stood up. Vada's smile faltered. "Wait, what are you doing?" I did not answer. I placed the envelope on the table in front of her and walked toward the exit. "Marcus," her voice rose. "Marcus, you cannot just leave. We had an agreement." I kept walking. Diana saw me coming, and her face filled with concern. "What is happening?" she asked. I shook my head. "I will explain in the car." Behind me, I heard Vada's voice getting louder, more desperate. "Marcus, after everything Raymond and I did to include you in this day, this is how you repay us." I pushed through the doors and stepped into the cool night air. The parking lot was nearly empty now. I walked to my truck, unlocked it, and sat behind the wheel. I did not drive away immediately. I just sat there holding the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Diana got in beside me a few minutes later. She did not ask questions, just reached over and held my hand. We sat like that for a long time. Eventually, I started the engine and we drove home in silence. The weeks after the wedding were difficult. Vada sent dozens of messages, each one angrier than the last. I ruined her perfect day. I humiliated her in front of everyone. I was selfish and cruel and had never really loved her. I did not respond to any of them. Eventually, I blocked her number. Raymond called too, leaving voicemails full of threats about legal action and ruined relationships and how I would regret disrespecting his daughter. I blocked him as well. Diana stood by me through all of it. She was hurt too, hurt by how Vada had treated both of us. Hurt by the realization that the daughter she had raised had become someone she barely recognized. We talked for hours, cried together, tried to make sense of what had happened. Ethan and Lily were our anchors during that time. They reminded me every day that love does not always betray you, that the years I had invested in raising them had produced something real and beautiful. Lily wrote me a letter telling me I was the best father she could have asked for. Ethan took me fishing one weekend and told me that watching how I handled the wedding had taught him more about dignity than anything else in his life. 2 months after the wedding, the truth came out. Ethan was at a bar with some friends when he ran into Derek. The groom was drunk and chatty, and the story poured out of him like a confession. Raymond was not rich. He had never been rich. The mansion was rented, the cars were leased, the entire lifestyle was built on credit and lies. His real estate company was drowning in debt, and he had been looking for a way out for years. Then he remembered he had a daughter. The whole reconnection had been calculated from the start. Raymond, researched Diana, found out she had remarried. A stable, hardworking man with savings and good credit. He reached out to Veda, played the remorseful father, showered her with borrowed luxury to win her over. The wedding was the final play, a way to stick someone else with the bill, while Raymond walked away looking like a hero. Derek felt guilty. He had known pieces of the plan, but had gone along with it because he loved Veda and did not want to lose her. But after the wedding, after seeing how Vada treated me, he started to see things differently. I never confronted Veda with this information. By then, it did not matter. The damage was done, and knowing the full extent of the manipulation did not make it hurt any less. I spent months working through everything with a therapist. I learned about boundaries and self-worth and the difference between loving someone and allowing yourself to be used by them. I learned that walking away from that ballroom was not abandonment. It was self-respect. A year after the wedding, I heard through Diana that Veda and Derek had divorced. The marriage had not survived once the financial reality set in. Raymond disappeared again, presumably running from creditors, repeating the pattern he had established decades ago. Veda sent me an apology message. It was long and full of explanations and requests for another chance. I read it once, then deleted it. I did not hate her. I was not angry anymore. But I had learned that some doors once closed need to stay closed. I never got back the money I spent on that deposit. It was gone along with a lot of other things I used to believe about family and loyalty and unconditional love. But here is what I kept. I kept my dignity. I kept my marriage. I kept my relationship with Ethan and Lily, who showed me every day that being a father is about presence, not biology. I kept the knowledge that I had done everything right, even if the outcome was painful. 17 years of love do not disappear because someone refuses to see it. They live on in me, in the lessons I learned, in the strength I found when I needed it most, and in the man I became because of them. That is something no one can take away. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever loved someone who could not see your worth Have you ever had to walk away to protect yourself? Share your story in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button and subscribe so you do not miss our future videos. Share this with someone who needs to hear that walking away is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that your value is not determined by how others treat you. You are worthy of love that sees you, appreciates you, and never takes you for granted. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.